Welcome back to Northeast Legends and Stories, where we dive deep into the rich tapestry of New England's past, uncovering tales that have shaped its history and captured imaginations across generations. Hey, you ever come across one of those old New England characters who seems straight out of a novel? The kind where everything lines up too perfectly to be coincidence? Today, we're heading up to the quiet hills of Brookline, Vermont, a tiny town tucked in Windham County with more cows than stoplights, to talk about Dr. John Wilson. This guy's story has everything: a fresh start in America, a solid job as a doctor, and whispers of a criminal past that could fill a whole season of true crime podcasts. Was he really a reformed highway robber from Ireland, or just a guy with bad luck and a knack for building weird schools? I'll walk you through it, step by step, because once you start digging, it's hard to stop. If you're driving those winding Vermont backroads or settling in for a rainy afternoon, this one's going to keep you hooked. Let's get into it. So, picture this. It's the early 1800s, and America is still figuring itself out after the Revolution. Towns like Brookline are popping up in the Green Mountains, folks clearing land for farms and mills, and along comes John Wilson around 1810. He's in his early 20s, fresh off the boat from Scotland, or wait, some say Ireland, depending on who you ask, and he settles first in nearby Dummerston before landing in Brookline. Right away, he sets up as a doctor, the kind who makes house calls with a black bag full of herbs and lancets, treating everything from fevers to broken bones. Neighbors remember him as sharp, well-read, even cultured. He quotes Shakespeare at town meetings and plays the fiddle at barn dances. By 1815, he's married to a local woman named Polly. They've got a couple kids. And he's got a tidy practice going, riding horseback between patients in the valleys. Life seems steady, right? He even gets involved in town affairs, helping with the school committee and church suppers. But here's where folks start raising eyebrows. Wilson's got this habit of dodging questions about his family back home. Lost touch during the war, he'd say with a wave, and change the subject to the weather or the price of wool. Fast forward a few years, and Wilson decides to leave his mark on Brookline in a big way. In 1821, the town needs a new schoolhouse. The old one's falling apart, kids crammed in like sardines during those long winter terms. Wilson steps up, not just as a donor, but as the designer. He sketches it out himself. A round building, 30 feet across, the oldest brick schoolhouse in Windham County. Why round? Well, that's the first odd bit. He tells the selectmen it's for better light and air circulation, no corners for dust to gather, and the shape keeps the kids focused without distractions. They go for it, build it out of local timber and stone, and it opens that fall with 40 students, buzzing around desks in a circle. Parents love it at first. The kids say it's fun, like being in a giant top hat. But soon, rumors trickle in. Wilson's always at the windows, peering out with a spyglass, scanning the roads and ridges. Keeping an eye on truants, he claims, but folks notice he's twitchy when strangers ride through town, especially anyone with an Irish lilt or a British accent. One farmer swears he saw Wilson bolt inside during a peddler's visit, peeking from the shutters like he expected trouble. Now, let's talk about the whispers that really get the story going. Around the 1830s, after a few drinks at the local tavern, the old Brookline Inn, someone brings up Wilson's accent, that mix of Scottish burr and something else. Turns out, back in Ireland, there was this notorious highwayman called Captain Thunderbolt, real name John O'Brien or something close, who terrorized the roads around Cork in the 1790s. The guy's a legend over there, bold as brass, robbing coaches at gunpoint, charming his victims with a grin before vanishing into the mist. He pulls off heists that make headlines, stealing a judge's gold watch, holding up a mail stage with a single pistol, and the constables can't catch him. But in 1798, during the Irish Rebellion, things heat up. Thunderbolt sides with the rebels, gets cornered in a skirmish near Bandon, and barely escapes with his life, sailing for America under a false name. Sound familiar? By the 1840s, when Wilson's getting on in years, the tale spreads in Brookline like gossip at a quilting bee. A traveling preacher visits, hears the accent, and later writes home that the doctor matches Thunderbolt's description to a T. Same scar on his cheek from a saber fight, same habit of twirling a watch chain that looks suspiciously like stolen loot. Wilson never confirms or denies it, of course. He just laughs it off over coffee with patients, saying, "I've robbed enough fevers in my time to last a lifetime." But the schoolhouse? Those windows start looking less like a whim and more like lookout spots, perfect for spotting redcoats or bounty hunters from miles away. And get this, when they dig the foundation, workers find old British coins mixed in the soil, halfpennies from the 1700s, like the ground itself is hiding his tracks. Wilson's practice thrives anyway. He delivers babies, sets fractures from logging accidents, even rides out during the 1830s cholera scares, mask and all. He and Polly raise 4 kids, 2 boys who grow up farmers, 2 girls who marry local. Life rolls on, steady as the whetstone brook that runs through town. But there's more to his body that fuels the talk. Wilson walked with a limp, thanks to a cork prosthesis in his boot to replace a heel blown off by a musket ball, a detail straight out of a highwayman's narrow escape. And those scars? Not just the cheek one. When folks prepared his body after death, they found chain marks on his wrists and ankles, the kind a convict might wear after a botched heist. Then, in 1847, at age 58, Wilson takes ill. It's quick. A fever turns to pneumonia, and he's gone by October, buried in Prospect Hill Cemetery in Brattleboro, under a simple slate marker that reads, Dr. John Wilson, 1789 to 1847. Polly outlives him by 20 years, tending the garden and telling grandkids stories of his fiddle tunes. But she clams up on the past, passing away in 1867 without spilling any secrets. The kids scatter a bit. One son heads west during the gold rush. Another stays local, farming the family plot. But they never talk about Dad's early days either. The round schoolhouse keeps teaching kids until 1950 when it closes for good, sitting empty for decades before the Brookline Historical Society restores it in the 1970s as a museum. Now it's open summers with old slates and inkwells on display, the windows offering views that haven't changed much since Wilson's time. The town still got that marker in the cemetery, overgrown with moss, and folks drive by it on Sundays, wondering if the doctor's ghost fiddles on stormy nights. The schoolhouse even served as town hall from 1929 to 1989, a steady presence while the legend simmered. As for the research, it's mostly local lore pieced together from oral histories and town records. No smoking gun, like a wanted poster with his face. The Brookline Historical Association dug into it in the 1990s, interviewing descendants and poring over Irish parish books. But they found no direct match for a John Wilson or O'Brien fleeing Cork in 1798. Historians like those at the Vermont Historical Society lean toward it being a tall tale, maybe inspired by real Irish immigrants with shady reps, but the details, like the scar, the chain marks, and the cork heel, line up too neatly for pure fiction. Podcasts like New England Legends have covered it, calling it plausible but unproven, and books on Vermont oddities treat it as colorful folklore. Were they really the same person? Most locals say yes, it's too perfect not to be, especially with the physical evidence on his body. And even skeptics admit the legend keeps Brookline on the map. No DNA tests or extradition papers to settle it, so it stays a mystery, the kind that makes you grin at the what-ifs. The association's Cynthia Now, for one, is convinced. Yes, Dr. John Wilson was Captain Thunderbolt, she told a local paper in 2011, pointing to the scars and limp as the clinchers. But without hard proof, it's that gray area that keeps the story alive, passed down like a family recipe no one can quite replicate. You know, Wilson's story feels so close to home because it reminds me of those modern cases where someone shows up with a new name and a clean slate, only for the past to catch up online. Think about that viral tale from 2022, the fake heiress Anna Sorokin, who conned New York high society posing as a German trust fund kid. She pulls it off for years, rubbing elbows at galas, until the feds unravel her web. Like Wilson, Sorokin reinvents herself, trades boardrooms for exile, watches her back from a prison cell, always scanning for the knock at the door. Both echo that thrill of the double life, the fear of exposure, and that nagging question. Did they escape for good, or is the old self just waiting in the shadows? In our world of facial recognition and ancestry DNA kits, it's harder to vanish. But stories like these show why we still root for the reinventors. And that's what gets me about Brookline. It's not just the doctor, it's how a small town holds onto these threads, turning them maybe into a must-know. Next time you're up that way, off Route 30, swing by the round schoolhouse. It's a museum now, open summers with old desks and a bell that still rings. Stand at the windows, look out over the valleys, and see if you feel that pull of the unknown. Who knows, you might spot your own past riding up the road. That's our chat on Dr. John Wilson, Brookline's mystery man with a highwayman's shadow. If this tale's got you curious about your own family secrets, drop us a line on socials. What's the wildest reinvention story you've heard? Until next time, keep an eye on the horizon. I'm your host, Mike D., signing off from the heart of New England. Stay open, friends.